What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Coach Steve, as always. And with me today is my boy, Coach Jibs. What's going on, Jibs?
Ain't much, man. Just got through this first week of the fantasy playoffs, and I thought I was in the clear, but more COVID news on Monday. I'm sure you're gonna get into it, but I just want to wish everyone good luck. I know we have a couple more games left. Hopefully you get what you need. I know Hot Take ain't getting what he needs right now with these Browns, but yeah, just don't stress it. Like, it was a good year. You played good, you played bad, but just keep it moving and then learn from your mistakes next year.
Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah. I'm doing pretty decent. I think my two biggest money leagues, I am moving to the semis. I'm hoping for. So we'll see how it goes tomorrow. It's the Tuesday night games are screwing me right now because those are the games I want played tonight, so I can have a better understanding. But yeah, it's what it is. We got Tuesday night football. Obviously, I don't know if we mentioned that when we were here last Thursday, but yeah, we're not changing our waiver wire show for that. Unfortunately, we'll try to talk about some players if they produce. Maybe we'll pick them up. But, we'll kind of go off what we've already known at this point and all the news we got today. There's a ton of news going out there. So I'll kind of get right into it because there's a lot to go over today, guys. So I'll start with the top here. News-wise, Teddy Bridgewater suffered a pretty terrible, gruesome head injury. He did get released from the hospital today, but it's a pretty known fact at this point. Drew Lock is getting the start for Week 16. Maybe that's good for the offense. Maybe it's not. It can only go one or two ways, so we'll see how that works. Sterling Shepard, torn Achilles, out for the season, basically just continues to get injured. And fortunate for that man because he is good when he's healthy and playing. Pat Freiermuth, concussion injury, his second in the last 2 months now. Definitely somewhat of a concern that he probably won't play maybe this coming week. So adjust yourself for that. Mike Evans is dealing with a hamstring injury. His injury is a week-to-week injury, but he does have a chance to play. Hopefully by our Thursday show, or actually it's going to be Wednesday this week, we'll know more information about that. Let's see here. Chris Godwin, this was the big news today. I'm sure Jibs is feeling this a little bit. I have some Chris Godwin shares, but he is now – oh, you have no Chris Godwin shares. Okay. He is out for the season now. ACL injury. I believe it's a torn ACL, and I know they said that it was an ACL, and that was all about it was. But he's out for the rest of the season. And real quick, Jibs, on this, because Chris Godwin's a pretty interesting character. He's young. He's in his prime now, but he's a free agent, and he's got coming off a major injury here. Does Chris Godwin's dynasty value scare you moving forward?
No, I don't believe so. Like, he's still a young receiver, and comparatively to like some of the superstars that we have in this league. So I think he still has some time to get right, even though it might not be next year where he's 100%. But it doesn't scare me at all. I guess I can see where you have concerns, like if he doesn't re-up with the Bucks or say Tom Brady finally leaves, then you'll have some issues there. But I'm sure a young quality receiver like that will have suitors, and he definitely won't be playing for some bum teams like the Lions.
That hopefully is true. I don't think he's going to want to go to the Lions, but yeah, I think we might get into a situation where Chris Godwin's going to be a really good buy low at some point this offseason because right now, torn ACL, I mean, that's at least 8 months. That puts you to almost the start of the season. Maybe it's more. I think it's 10 months or so to fully recover from ACL tear nowadays, which would put him maybe missing parts of next season. Maybe that, whatever contract he does, it's only a 1-year contract. So wait and see. Wait for a month or two to go by now and see if you can maybe get Chris Godwin on the low. If you're a rebuilding team, see if you can go out and get him for a cheaper deal. Or you might want to wait until we find out more as we get close to the season where maybe he's delayed on his recovery time. So that is something to keep in mind. We'll see how it kind of works out, but hopefully the man comes back healthy because he is a fantastic wide receiver for fantasy. So, all right, moving on, guys. Here we have some more things to talk about. Leonard Fournette, hamstring injury. He's likely out 1 to 2 weeks. So we'll get you some more information about that because this is going to be a player we're going to be talking about in a little bit about his possible replacement. Julio Jones had hamstring injury. I think at this point, Julio isn't going to be the old Julio we known and loved for the last decade. It might just be the end of Julio. But for right now, he isn't somebody I'm worrying about. And maybe the return of A.J. Brown, which is happening, could help give him a spark that he needs. But don't expect him to be the Julio old at this point. Joe Mixon has suffered an ankle sprain. We'll see how that progresses through the week here. We'll definitely mention some replacement for him. Daniel Jones, done for the year. Elijah Mitchell has a chance to play in Week 16. There was early reports saying that he was out already, but he has a chance to play. And then, obviously, this morning, midday at this point, the COVID news hit. Austin Eckler, Kendrick Bourne, Travis Kelce, Jared Goff all hit COVID reserve at this point now. I don't know what most of their vaccination statuses are, but Kelce's he is vaccinated, and there's a good chance he could get off by Sunday based on the new rules of the COVID situation. So hopefully we won't have to worry about that for our Week 16 bouts. So we'll get to that. But hopefully just keep up on the news, guys. That's the big thing. Join Twitter if you're not on Twitter already, and just follow the news because COVID's going to continue to impact this playoff run right now, and you just have to be prepared and pick up the players in advance to get through it. So, all right, so let's move on to the next topic here, Jibs. I threw another one in here, and this one's going to be quick and short here. It's our trust-o-meter. It's playoff time, Jibs, and there are some players that are performing to a high standard right now that we're loving, and some players that aren't. So moving forward over the next 2 weeks here, your trust 1 through 10 on these players here. And I'll start first one, Deante Foreman. He's been RB 18 since Week 12 now. You trust him as a starter. You trust playing him.
I'll put it at a 7.
7, okay. I'm probably somewhere around a 6. The splits are kind of concerning, especially if he has a tough matchup and if they're behind in a game, but I'm at a 6. Devin Singletary, RB 20 since Week 12 now. He carried the workload. Reports are that they trust him as their workhorse back. Do you trust him?
6.
6. I'm probably about a 5. They do play New England, which is a decent matchup. In Week 16, I think they play Atlanta, which could be really good. So probably like a 5 or 6 for me. Russell Gage, wide receiver 4 since Week 12. Do you trust Russell Gage?
I do trust him, but as we've seen with this Falcons offense, it could just go one way one week and completely the other way the next week. So I'll give him a solid 7.
Yeah, I think I'm on a 7 too. I think he's seeing enough work. Tajay Sharp just went down, so there's some targets that might open up for him. He's got a great matchup next week. He might be a sleeper possibly for one of us next week. But he does play the Bills, and I think in Week 17, so that could be some of a situation. But he does play the slot role, so it might be okay. But 7 sounds great. Let's see. Moving on. Amon St. Brown, wide receiver 8 since Week 12. I get 10. Okay, we'll get into him at some point too. But yeah, 10 for me, guys. And I think we'll talk about him more on our waiver wire portion of the show. Gabriel Davis, wide receiver 11 since Week 12.
I'll put it at 8 just because I don't know if Sanders was going to come back and play this week. Obviously, we saw without Sanders how big of a game he could have, especially with the game yesterday. So he's going to be 8 depending on Sanders, but I love what I've seen out of the last 3 weeks out of him.
I absolutely agree. I think I'm around an 8 as well, honestly. And I don't want to get too much away because he might be someone I'm going to be talking about in a little bit, but he's been playing on a fantastic level, something that I was looking forward to seeing during the preseason of him going into the season, but it's coming a little later in the year, which could be good for fantasy. So Josh Reynolds, wide receiver 16 since Week 12.
No doubt Goff is going to be a little bit lower, but hopefully he can come back. Josh Reynolds, I'll give him a 5 because I know a lot of his balls, he gets a lot of downfield targets with his speed, so you know some of those can be 50-50 at times. They could be less than 50%, but he's been playing exceptionally well. I had to give it up to the Detroit Lions staff and how they've been utilizing their wide receivers since DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson with them.
Yes, absolutely. I'm somewhere, I think I'm around a 5 as well here. Jamal Williams did get reactivated, so that's definitely some interesting news. So we'll see if that impacts him at all, but I don't really think so. Hawkinson being out for the year is definitely the major impact for these wide receivers. So I'm about a 5 or 6 with him for the rest of the season, these next 2 weeks. Let's see here. Who else do I have? These are some bad ones now. Ramondre Stevenson, wide receiver, RB 60 since Week 12. He was a hot point at one point this season, but you trust him in lineups moving over the next 2 weeks.
He burnt me last week. I don't trust him.
Even with Damien Harris out, if he is out again.
If he's out again, I'll give him a 4.
Yeah, I think I'm around a 3 or 2. Honestly, I don't really trust it. Honestly, there's some tough matchups for me that I'm not really banking on Ramondre Stevenson to be a savior for the playoffs. What about Amari Cooper, wide receiver 58?
Oh my God. He gets a 4 just because of his name, but Dak has been playing brutal, like straight brutal. So like if I can't trust Dak with the plethora of weapons they have in that Cowboys offense, it's just hard for me to just kind of trust Cooper to get efficient yardage on a week-to-week basis.
Agreed. I'm about a 4 on him too, honestly, right now. The targets on he isn't seeing the number one targets as he was early on in the season at times. It's tough for me to trust Cooper in starting lineups. If I don't have to play him, I would like that too. About DK Metcalf, wide receiver 70 right now, hasn't played week 12, but if he has another poor performance, are you out on him on trust level?
Yeah, I'd probably be out of him right now. Like given like the state of the Seahawks and what he has done. I'll put him same as Cooper, a 4. He has the name. We'll see what tomorrow brings. Like he's basically going to be by himself if Tyler Lockett doesn't get activated, and hopefully he can actually put on a decent performance. But we haven't seen him get any separation, any of this, any of that. He's just been getting 8 targets, but it's been empty though.
Agreed.
Not really much to show for.
It's true. It's true. What's up, Kyle, man? Thanks for tuning in, buddy. Yeah, I'm probably about if he has another bad performance, I'm dropping him down to at least a 4 at best. If he has a good game, I'll be okay with a 6 because his matchups the next 2 following weeks are pretty decent. He just needs to perform at least one game for me to get back into my good graces. And then one last one here, Terry McLaurin, 91 right now, wide receiver since week 12. Do you trust him? If he has a good game, bad game?
I don't trust him. He's been way inconsistent throughout the season. You'll see 2 bad games, a good game, a couple more bad games, a good game. It's pretty much due that he's going to have a good game probably tomorrow, given like his up and down trajectory. But I don't really trust him. He'll be a 4 for me as well.
Yeah, I'm on a 4 level right now, even a 3. If it's just he's got the same 2 opponents he's had the last 2 weeks. If he does well against Philly, he might provide me with some more comfort, but if he has another bad game, he's playing the exact 2 teams he's played over the last prior 2 weeks. So yeah, it's at 3 or 4 at best for me, honestly, and it sucks. I love Terry McLaurin. So all right, that was our trust-o-meter. Some players that people might have been asking about. So let's get into the waiver wire part of the night here, guys, and we're gonna do one for each category here, one both for me and Jibs. So I'll give us a little break from Jibs from doing 2 each. So we'll start with the quarterback, Jibs. Who's your quarterback pickup of the week?
Yeah, you look through all those guys that are really like lowly rostered, and they have terrible matchups. Like they just stink the house up. But even though he didn't come through for me last week, I'm gonna go with Jimmy G again. The 49ers just blew the Falcons out of the water yesterday, and given the fact that the Jimmy G and the 49ers play the Tennessee Titans next week, they give the 6 most points to quarterbacks. I think that will be advantageous for them. But one thing I did look into was the Tennessee's run defense is pretty damn stout. They give up minimum points to running back. So given the 49ers blueprint to success, run, let Jimmy G kind of manage the game, I think that we're going to have to let them pass a little bit more. They're going to get out of their comfort zone. So I think Jimmy G should have a good game.
Okay. All right. I don't hate it at all. He performed decently well this past week here. Hopefully he can kind of continue, and because of the tough matchup on the ground, hopefully maybe get a couple of touchdown passes this coming week here. So no, I like that one a lot. For me, guys, I'm going with Justin Fields still. And again, even if he has a poor game, I'm probably off of him. I don't think I can trust him as a pickup and even play him. But I'm projecting him to have a good game tonight, and if he does have a great game, I mean, he's got to be a number 1 pickup. The rushing ability by himself, I mentioned last week, is something that just is intriguing in fantasy. We saw a guy like Tyler Huntley go out and just rush the ball and do fantastic that way. And the matchups are great still. Again, he's got Seattle, which is a decent matchup. He's got the Giants, which are a pretty decent matchup. The matchup tonight will really dictate on how kind of you view him moving forward. And if he plays well enough, sign me up as my number 1 quarterback pickup. And a couple other quarterbacks just kind of mention real quick, guys. I mean, Jared Goff, if he plays, he does have a great matchup against Atlanta. That could be interesting. Matt Ryan himself, he's still under the 40% mark owned now at this point. He's playing Lions. That could be a decently good play if you're still struggling to find a quarterback. Some of these guys, there's some little bit of an option here. And even Tyler Huntley. I mean, if you want to take that risk and pick up Tyler Huntley now, go for it. I don't know if he's going to have a 35-point fantasy day again, but just like Justin Fields, his rushing ability is intriguing. So, again, they're pickups, but I think Lamar Jackson's going to play this week. But you never know. So, all right, Jibs, heading over to the RB pickup. Who's your number one RB pickup? Who are you going after this week?
First pick, I'm going with Ronald Jones, and I didn't get to watch the whole game, but I know Leonard Fournette sustained a hamstring injury, so the Bucs are gonna have to turn to Ronald Jones, and I know Giovanni Bernard's also been on the IR, so he's basically their only guy they got. But throughout the season, besides like maybe the first 3 or 4 games, the Bucs have been running one running back, and it's been Leonard Fournette, giving us all these fantasy points up till now. So now it's Ronald Jones' turn. We seen yesterday he had 8 carries, 63 yards, pretty good, almost like 8 yards per carry. So being that he's the only guy in town, they just lost Chris Godwin. Mike Evans is hampered up a little bit. You would think the Bucs will want to kind of keep a little bit off Tom Brady's back so he doesn't have to do too much. So I know they're going to run the ball, and I'm going with Ronald Jones.
I love it. And he's honestly my number one pickup, too, if I'm going across the board. I'm so glad I picked him up in our Pro League a couple days earlier. Very thrilled about it. The matchup is, I think it's decent next week. Did you mention the matchup?
He will be playing the Carolina Panthers.
And that could be on and off, but the biggest thing is Week 17, the New York Jets. That is a matchup I want so badly in my finals to put him in there. So I'm spending almost everything I have left to go get Ronald Jones, personally. If he's out there, spend. Get him on your team because he's going to be great. I'm not scared of Gio Bernard and the passing ability. Ronald Jones will make this work. I think Bruce Arians said it's Ronald Jones' time to do what Leonard Fournette did last year when Ronald Jones got hurt. And we all know what Lenny Fournette did last year. Though in those last few weeks of the regular season, he dominated. So let's go Ronald Jones.
I'm glad you picked him up, but it seems to me that you're like 3 people over the roster limit. Seems a little bit cheating.
I can't drop them. I can't drop people. We changed the rules. I can't drop anybody.
I'm going to put that on my little wish list in the offseason.
I'll drop Odell. If you want me to drop Odell right now, I will, man.
I'm not saying nothing. I dropped my players before the game started. I just don't know what our commissioner does on the other hand.
Hey, I mean, the game he got activated on Sunday afternoon. I can't help it. So, all right. So let me go over to my number 2 waiver wire pickup this week here. And where I'm leaning right now, this is a tough one, but I'm going to go Justin Jackson right now. And it's just because now that Austin Eckler went on the COVID, I don't know his vaccination status, so I don't know if he has an issue or not. But if, say, God forbid, Austin Eckler's out, I'm hoping he's not. He does play the Houston Texans this week. And Justin Jackson, over the last few weeks now, he's had 22 carries and over 100 yards combined. He had a great performance this past week with 86 yards on the ground. He actually played more than Austin Eckler did. And again, that could have been partially because Austin Eckler was banged up. But Justin Jackson seems to be finding himself more of a role in this offense here. And he's somebody that especially if you're the Austin Eckler owner, I'm going out to pick him up after Ronald Jones. He's my number 2 overall for me in terms of running back pickups this week. All right, Jibs, let's head over to let me talk about some of the other guys real quick.
Duke Johnson, give your boy some love.
See, I like Duke Johnson, but I'm still nervous about Duke Johnson, guys. So I was going to mention him first. He had a great game. I don't know. Malcolm Brown is supposed to be coming back and practicing this week. I don't know how this all fits in with Duke Johnson. Duke Johnson has always been known as a 3rd down back, but people loved him as a 3 down back possibly. They have the Saints next week. I mean, Leonard Fournette did barely anything against them outside of the receiving work, and I don't think Tua really throws to his running backs all that much. So for me, I mean, you could pick up Duke Johnson, but I don't think I'll be comfortable starting him after one good performance, to be honest. So you could pick him up, but I'm not thrilled about it. Amir Abdullah, someone in PPR leagues who's seeing more work than Hubbard, and they play the Bucs, the Bucs do let up a lot of receptions to RBs, so that could be a benefit to him if you're looking for PPR. Craig Reynolds, I mentioned Craig Reynolds last week, and it was like, don't pick him up, and I honestly thought someone would come off the COVID list will come back and Craig Reynolds will just kind of disappear, but he didn't. He had a great week once again. He just got signed to the active roster for the rest of the season here now. I think it's through 2022 too. I mean, Jamal Williams is coming back off it. I don't know what they're going to do. You could pick Reynolds up, but I don't know if I'm that comfortable starting him unless I'm looking for a desperation play or big upside play because they do play the Falcons. I mean, I think he's probably third on my list in terms of picking him up this week. You could go out of your way to do it, but I don't know if I'm still there yet. I mean, he's been good. Nothing wrong against that, but I'm not there. Gio Bernard, again, you don't know. Maybe he sees some more work. Devontae Booker, it seems like him and Saquon are kind of splitting right now. I don't know what's going on with that, and Booker looked better on Sunday. He did. Dearness Johnson, if he can kind of continue to perform against the Browns, I don't know what that game's doing right now. The Eagles running backs, someone has to come through if Miles Sanders gets hurt again. And then last but not least, Jeff Wilson. He had a big workload, but I don't trust it 100% because they do have a tough matchup. But he's definitely someone. I think he's probably like fourth for me on my list if I'm picking somebody up. But I don't trust him 100% because Mitchell could be back. Samuels is in that backfield. So, yeah, the running backs are decent pickups this week, that's for sure. But Jones and Justin Jackson are probably the top two guys to go after right now. All right, Jeff, let's head over to the wide receivers now, my friend. Who do you have as your number one wide receiver pickup?
It kind of threw me off. I had Amon-Ra again, but with this Jared Goff news, it kind of wants me to defer to your boy Gabriel Davis, but he's one of your guys, so I'm going to let you kind of just lead the tempo on that, and I'll just give my Amon-Ra stats. So, hey, he just keeps putting on the numbers, guys. Like I told you last week, he had 2 straight games with 12 targets. He had basically – now I'm just going to run it back. So in the last 3 weeks, he has no less than 73 receiving yards per game. He has no less than 11 targets per game. He's basically caught 8 receptions in the last 3 games. So that's massive production in PPR scoring. He's gave me 24, 15, and another 23-point performance. Like, this guy's a superstar in the making, even though it kind of sounds funny that he plays for the Detroit Lions. Hopefully Jared Goff can get back and give him these and pepper him with more targets. So I'm still liking Amon-Ra. Get him on your team. Make sure someone else doesn't have him, just in case of all this COVID nonsense going on. And you might even find yourself prepared in case you even need to start him in case one of your wide receivers went down. Lock it.
I mean, I'm still probably a 1B to my pickup this week, honestly. I love it. You know, the last time that Goff didn't play, he didn't have a great game, but Hawkinson saw 8 targets in that game. They ran wild with DeAndre Swift last time that Jared Goff wasn't playing. So we don't know exactly what Amon-Ra St. Brown can do with another wide receiver, but it seems like he is seeing that big workload, and he's seeing the targets, which you have sometimes following the targets makes sense. So I can't disagree that he's probably a top-tier pickup this week, honestly. But you're right. Honestly, I'm going to talk about Gabriel Davis because Gabriel Davis is finally doing what I thought Gabriel Davis could do. And he's seeing a big workload. He's seeing at least the last 2 games, he's seen at least 7 targets, and he's getting touchdowns, and he's seeing big red zone opportunities. Over the last 4 weeks now, he has seen at least 8 targets over the last 3 weeks. I'm sorry, not 4 weeks. Over the last 3 weeks right now, he's being the red zone threat on this offense. I believe Emmanuel Sanders, he might not play in this game and the coming week in week 16. So Gabriel Davis might have another opportunity to really go out and show his worth. I mean, they play the New England Patriots, who are probably going to try to find a way to lock down Stephon Diggs. Josh Allen needs another reliable target. Cole Beasley's not doing what he did last year, and Sanders is kind of banged up. So why not lean on Gabriel Davis to get the job done? I think that he should be in a workload for the next 2 weeks, especially in week 17 when they play the Falcons. That is something I really want to take advantage of now and go out there and grab because he could end up being a league winner for us this week. So Gabriel Davis is my guy. So, all right, Jibs, let's mention some other ones real quick here. I think if Antonio Brown's out there, just check your waivers. Maybe he's out there. He'd be obviously a top tier pickup, but I think he is definitely over the 40% mark. But some people might have dropped him with the suspension and everything like that. So just keep him in mind. Guys like Tyler Johnson and Scotty Miller, they could see a bigger workload. I don't think I'd trust them, but if you're desperate for wide receivers, those guys could be something. Some other desperate plays is like Marquez Callaway, Jalen Guyton. Those can be some real desperate opportunities if you're looking for something. Donovan Peoples-Jones kind of falls in that category. A couple other guys that could be start plays are MBS and Alan Lazar. Those guys have been stepping up over the last couple of weeks now, and they play Cleveland and Minnesota, two great matchups for wide receivers. I would have more trust in starting one of them over the next 2 weeks than some of these guys that are right now playing really bad. Josh Reynolds, we mentioned him already before in the trust meter. He is someone who has been producing just like Amon St. Brown. Laquan Treadwell has been basically the number one guy for the Jaguars, it seems like. And he continues to produce decent outings. They're not great, but if you're looking for 10 points from your flex spot, he'll probably get that for you this week and in the following week, too. I believe the Jags, their matchups, if I'm not mistaken, are decent. I'm trying to remember what they were. They play the Jets in New England, definitely matchups where they could at least need to throw the ball a little bit. So, yeah, those aren't bad options as well. So, all right, Jibs, let's head over to the tight end positions now. And who's your tight end pickup of the week?
Nobody. I have two, but it's like depending on what you're looking for. So, like if you're looking for like a waiver tight end or streaming tight end for like 2 weeks for your fantasy playoff matchups, I would go with Ricky Seals-Jones. He plays the Cowboys, who give up the 14th most points this week, and then following week he plays the Eagles, who give up the most production to tight ends. So for a 2-week window, I think that would be your guy. Obviously, we have to see if the football team and gets through this game and whatever happens with that. But the guy I wanted to highlight for next week would be James O'Shaughnessy, and he led the Jaguars yesterday with 60 yards receiving. Like you just mentioned, the third wide receiver for the Jaguars just keeps having massive production throughout the whole season. Agnew, and then now Laquan Treadwell. So note to yourself, get yourself the third wide receiver next year during the draft season. And James O'Shaughnessy, like the Jets, they give the 7th most points to tight ends. You know, with the Jets, with the Jaguars, or two bad teams, anything could happen when two bad teams are playing each other. So just given the scenario with the Jaguars and how they just can't get their alpha wide receivers the ball in good situations, I'm going to rather just kind of take my chance with the backup tight end, James O'Shaughnessy. And you take it away, Coach Steve.
Yeah, no, definitely two great options there. Man, I mean, this is definitely tough. This last couple weeks here because there's no one I really trust. You could maybe see if a guy like Albert O from the Denver Broncos, again, he's their backup, so it's a little scary to want to play him, but he is at times this season has done really well for fantasy. I mean, over the last 6 games, he's had at least 3 games over 40 yards. And again, that's decent options. And especially with Drew Lock playing, it seems like Drew Lock seems to favor the tight end position over throwing to his wide receivers. So he might be someone this week to go out to get. They do play the Los Angeles Chart. No, they play the Raiders and the Chargers. 2 great matchups for tight ends. So you might be looking at a league winner of a guy who's basically a backup, which is scary to think, but he might end up really helping you win a championship. He's definitely could be worth a pickup. Again, if you don't have your starting tight end at this point, you don't have your starting tight end, but he has that upside that we would kind of like. So, all right, let me just name off a few more: Gerald Everett, Cole Kmet, TJ Uzama, Bevan Jordan, Ricky Seals-Jones. I don't think you could even trust Evan Ingram, but he's got a great matchup against Philly next week. I wouldn't pick him up honestly. So, but yeah, the tight end situation isn't that great, but there's some people that if you're looking for an upside play, they're out there this week for you. So. All right, Jibs, that's the end of our waiver wire segment, and now we're on to the last segment of the night, my friend. Our top 5 dynasty wide receivers right now, my friend.
Okay, I'm ready to go this time.
All right, so name me your top 5, and then I'll name my top 5, and we'll compare them.
I'm going with Justin Jefferson, numero uno. Then I'm going to give it to the old head, even though he's going to probably be 28 by the start of next season. I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill. He still has Patrick Mahomes attached to him. Third, I'm going to bring in CeeDee Lamb. It's like, you know me, like I'm just an age junkie. Following that, Jamar Chase. And to round off the top 5, I'm going to go A.J. Brown. I want to put Devontae Adams in there, but I don't know where the hell he's going. They said it's the last dance. He could be tailing along with Rodgers. He could end up in some funky situation where he has to get used to another quarterback, but he's not far off the top 5, but I'm going to go Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, and A.J. A.J. Brown. That's my top 5.
Okay. I love it. Honestly, you went the youth route there. I love it. So I'm looking at Justin Jefferson, number 1, of course. Tyreek 2, number 2. Devontae Adams still, number 3. Mine's a little bit older here. Number 4 could be very tough for a lot of people to understand, but Cooper Kupp is number 4 for me right now.
Okay.
And number 5 is CeeDee Lamb. And if it helps, Jamar Chase is 6, guys. He's not far off. Him kind of filling out the last 6 weeks now, kind of turning off him as a top 5 option, but he is going to be someone probably by midseason next year who jumps back in my top 5. So let's see here. We went Jefferson 1. We can pretty much understand that. We went Tyreek 2 here now at this point. So why CeeDee Lamb at 3?
Well, I think, given the scenario of the Cowboys, Cooper just looks like a dog right now. Like, obviously, we talked about in the offseason how the Cowboys could kind of just cut his contract, release him, and just take a minimum cap hit or minimum compared to the last 2 years. So I think once Cooper's gone, and if Gallup leaves, because they're both, well, Gallup's more of a restricted free agent, and then Cooper's on the book for 2 years. But once they're two are gone, or once one of them leaves, I think there could be a huge pathway to targets and production for CeeDee Lamb. And I don't think Dak's going anywhere, even though he's playing like crap. So that's why I have him 3.
No, I honestly agree with you. That's why he's in my top 5 right now, because he's a young player. He's uber talented. I think at some point they get back to throwing the ball a little bit more. I think they're going to realize they need to throw the ball a little bit more. He's been kind of on and down in terms of the target shares on a week-to-week basis, but he is a tremendous wide receiver, and he can break a big one at any moment. And like you said, either Cooper or I think Gallup leave next year. I don't think they both come back next year on this team here. One of them are gone, whether they get rid of Cooper or they re-sign Gallup or they vice versa, whatever it is. And CeeDee Lamb is going to be this wide receiver 1 for the next 3 years, and that's how I look at it. He's going to be a number one wide receiver, and he's going to be good, a really good wide receiver. So he's out there. Let's see here. I guess I'll kind of explain why Cooper Kupp is in my top 5. I mean, we all know why Cooper Kupp's in my top 5. I mean, he is a tremendous wide receiver right now. And the way I look at, dynasties, I always do a 3-year window. And I think he's going to be 29 next year. Let me just check into that real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to be 29 next year, or is he already 29? I have to look.
He's going to be 29. I don't know his actual birth date, but listed at 28 right now.
Is it listed at 20? Let me just see if I can see. His birth date doesn't say it on the site I'm on, but that's okay. So he's going to be 29 going into next season at least here. And Cooper Kupp hasn't really took the tread of being a wide receiver as much. He started later. He started at 24. So he's only been in the league for 5 years at this point, and he missed 1 year due to an injury. He tore his ACL pretty early in the season. So he's still relatively young in terms of the amount of hits he's been taking as a wide receiver. And the upgrade of Matthew Stafford was obviously a clear sign. And I don't expect that. They're not going away. Matthew Stafford's there for another 2 years at least. And I expect Cooper Kupp to be someone at least 2 more seasons of pure dominant, to be honest. Yeah, I don't think they're getting away from that. I think they could bring back Bob Wood. I think they might actually bring back Odell. I don't think that takes away from his target share. His target share is going to stay at a high level, and just because he has that connection. And obviously Matthew Stafford trusts him to the full extent to be there. And in terms of dynasty, he's someone that I'm very high on right now, and he needs to be in at least the top 10. If you don't like him in your top 5, I get it, but he's a top 10 dynasty wide receiver for many folks. And then who's your number 5 again, Jibs? I'm sorry.
Oh, it was A.J. Brown.
A.J. Brown. So why A.J. Brown in your top 10? He's been dealing with a lot of injuries over the last 2 seasons now. I mean, your top 5.
Yeah, he's been dealing with a lot of injuries, but the proof's in the pudding. What I've seen over the last 2 years, when the Titans had Derrick Henry, and he wasn't able to amass all that production with like minimum targets per game. So I just like how he kind of, from efficiency output, like how he's been so efficient over the last 2 years. I know he's been injured, but we see like they brought in Julio Jones, and he can't even stay on the field. So what happens when A.J. Brown is actually the alpha dog in the room without like a star-studded wide receiver with Julio Jones next to him? So I think he's I guess his ceiling I think is higher than I'll say Adams and the remainder of the years. That's why. But you know me, I'm an Adams junkie. I could easily put him in 5, but like it's just basically I don't know what's going to happen with Adams. That's why it's AJ Brown over Adams to me.
All right, I respect it honestly. I love that take there. I don't hate it. Again, he comes with a little risk to me, honestly, with injuries, but hopefully hopefully he can just stay healthy. And he's a guy who sees 150 targets really easily if he's on the field for 17 games. So we'll see how that turns out there. So, but that's going to wrap us up for tonight, guys. That is our top 5 Dynasty wide receivers. Currently, we're obviously going to get into more Dynasty talk in the offseason, so look out for that. But yeah, we just wanted to give you guys a little taste of it as we get closer to the end of the NFL season, the fantasy season. So we thank you guys for listening. As always, you can always see us on Twitter at Coaches Fantasy. Ask us any fantasy questions. Ask us any fantasy advice. Maybe you have a team you want us to look over. Let us know. We'll help you out. And if you ever want to give me and Coach Gibbs a follow, talk to us in personally. You can do that at Twitter at Coach Stephen P.
Hot take contra.
Hot take contra. So thank you guys for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week 15 playoff run. Hopefully you guys make it so you come back on Wednesday nights, talk to us about our Starting Shit show. And if we don't talk to you and you don't see us, then guys, have a happy holidays, and we'll see you for at some point the rest of the season. So take care, guys, and have a great one.